What's good, everybody? Let's talk about some NFL trades going down today. This is the OG Bronc Nuts from the 719. You know where it is, on the West. And I'm trying to get to where you guys can see me, and this sun's not going to screw everything up. So we're going to give it a few minutes. We'll wait for some people to join the stream. Some big trades went down in the NFL today, and one of them involved the Broncos. And so I want to talk about it and give some props out to Emmanuel Sanders, who got traded to the 49ers for a 5th-round pick, and in return, the Broncos get a 3rd and a 4th. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there, especially probably a lot of haters, that are going to type down the comment section that the problem is John Elway. Until John Elway goes, the Broncos will never be good. Well, not in my book. Is John Elway on the hot seat? I'd say so, and I'd say rightfully so. But I think this was a good move by John Elway to trade Emmanuel Sanders. I mean, actually, before he got traded, when I was having lunch with some of my friends, they asked me, you know, what did I think was going to happen? Were we going to trade anybody? Would we trade Emmanuel Sanders? And I said, yeah, you know, I would. And they said, what do you think we're going to get for him? I said, well, I can't imagine us getting a 2nd-round pick. We're definitely not going to get a 3rd. I think we're definitely not going to get a 2nd. I think Emmanuel Sanders is worth a 3rd-round pick. And I said, but we'll probably end up getting a 4th because he's, you know, up there in age. I think he's 33 years old. But, you know, I'm hoping that we could get a 3rd. So to have to give away Emmanuel Sanders in a 5th to get a 3rd and a 4th, I think we got what was fair. And maybe the Broncos got the cherry on top of the sundae. But I think that the trade was fair to both teams. I think the 49ers are getting a hell of a receiver. Just want to thank Emmanuel Sanders. Manny San, ES10, did big things in the 5.5 years that he was here. Helped us win a Super Bowl ring, a guy that was always full of electricity, always coming up with the big diving catches, the fingertip grabs when it's 3rd and long, and you really need something, a boost to keep this drive going. He was that guy. And even though here in Denver, a lot of people, football analysts, right, would consider Emmanuel Sanders our number 2 receiver, alongside Demaryius Thomas, I always thought Emmanuel Sanders as our number 1 receiver, because to me, Manny made more plays than Demaryius ever made here. And I'm not taking anything away from 88. Demaryius made some big time plays in Denver, but I just feel like Emmanuel Sanders made more, and he made more dramatic, unbelievable, like really sparked the team plays. And probably more than any receiver I've seen in Denver since Rod Smith. So it was really a nice thing to have him here, and I'm happy to see Emmanuel while he's still got a few good years left. I mean, the guy's got some gas in the tank. 49er fans, you guys are getting a hell of a wide receiver. And thank you for the 3rd pick. I mean, I think it was a fair deal. Now, are the Broncos done? I don't know. I mean, if I was Elway, I certainly wouldn't be done. I'd be looking to deal Chris Harris. I'd be looking to deal Derek Wolfe, although I don't think we're going to get very much value for him. I would love to deal Gotsis, but I don't think Gotsis has really got any trade value whatsoever. And in my personal opinion, Von Miller is not tradable. I'm not saying that he's off the table, but I think a team has to come with a number 1 and a number 2 at the bare bones minimum for us to even consider it. And I think it's got to be outside the AFC for us to do it. And I'm not sure anybody's going to give us a 1 and a 2, because I don't think we can get 2 1s from Miller at this point in his career. I know Khalil Mack got that, but he's a younger player, a lot more upside, more years he can contribute to the franchise. So I'd rather have Miller on the roster. He's the face of the Denver Broncos. And then going into the draft, you know, there's a lot of needs we have. Obviously linebacker, obviously offensive line, now obviously wide receiver, even though Tim Patrick's coming back. But if Tim Patrick comes back here in a couple of weeks, I mean, that's bad news either for Butt. Who else we got on the IR? Locke. And then we also have that running back that we signed that was in Detroit for a while. So I can't remember his name. So those 3 guys, we can only bring back 2. So that means when they may shelf Locke, I mean, the way Noah Kant is playing, we might have to activate Butt. I mean, there's a lot of situations that the Broncos are in, and that's why I was for trading Sanders. Now, there's a lot of people out there. I've already heard. I mean, I heard today. I told somebody, I said, "Did you hear Broncos traded Sanders?" Yeah, what a stupid move. And I'm like, really? Because in a few more weeks, when the season's over, he's an unrestricted free agent, and he's not going to sign here. He can just go wherever he wants. So shouldn't we get something? And they're like, well, yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, the only way you can get something is to trade him to another team that needs him, and the 49ers do. I mean, look, I like Goodwin, whatever his name is over there in San Francisco. They're 6-0 undefeated with a good defense, and believe me, Emmanuel Sanders is better every one of their wide receivers they got on their team. And I'm not trying to throw no shade at the 49ers. It's just the facts, Jack. This guy makes the 49ers offense better instantaneously, just like he did here. And it's a shame this year, Flacco and our Scangarello weren't able to get Sanders the ball, which I think he got a little bit upset. He threw some shade at the Broncos. The Broncos were throwing it back, and that kind of stuff happens in pro football. But, look, the fan part of me believes that we can win every game, every year. We're going to have a shot at the playoffs. I mean, the fan part of me believes that, but the realistic, like sports fan in me understands that the Broncos we're far from being in a Super Bowl. It's not like we need 2 or 3 players and we're right back in it. We need some things here. Okay, so when you need some things, you got to have a fire sale. You got to shake some things up. And to me, I thought this was a good move. So Theo Riddick, thanks Bronco Fanatic 97. So I didn't really think, but I'd look to trade some more players. I would love to play to get rid of Chris Harris, and I love Chris Harris. Great Bronco, great teammate, always a positive guy, looking at the bright side of things. Just work harder. That was when you lose. When a guy says, we just got to work harder. We just got to take care of the little things. That's Chris Harris and that's Emmanuel Sanders. Those two are leaders. And, those are the things that you want on your football team. So it's not like I would be happy if Chris Harris left us. But again, it's the same old connotation that, if we can't really win anything in the next 2 or 3 years here, which I don't believe we can really put it all together with a new coaching staff, offensive system. We have a young quarterback that we're going to be grooming here, maybe another one that we're going to be drafting, a young wide receiver, a couple of young running backs, really, a rookie offensive lineman. Like, we have some things that we got to do here before the Broncos are going to be an elite team that can compete for a Super Bowl. Bronco fans aren't going to take this losing laying down. We never have been a franchise who is just a perennial loser that went on and lost for decades. Okay, we've never been that. We've always had ownership and GMs that were the competitors, right, that wanted to give us a chance to win. And I still think that we have that, and I still think that the Broncos will be back. We will see our glory again another day because we have a franchise and a fan base that's committed to what we're doing, which is a lot more than most teams can say. So let's get to some of these comments. Thanks for everybody joining the stream. Seb Cisneros, LR Hitman 34, Sebastian Siebert, Mr. P-Town 49, what's up? You got yourself a good little player there, man. You're going to like him. You're really going to like him now. He is going to be your best wide receiver. Lit R Ronan 34 says fire sale. I wouldn't consider it a fire sale. Look, when 2 people walk away from a bargaining table and nobody feels like they won, I think it's a fair deal on both sides. Like, as a Broncos fan, getting a 3rd round pick for Emmanuel Sanders at 33 years old, do I feel like we won? No, I don't feel like we won. I don't really feel like we lost. And if I was a 49ers fan, I'm like, hey, a 3rd round pick, Jack, is a pretty high pick. There's guys that turn out to be 10-year, 15-year starters on your franchise that are 3rd round picks. So do they feel like they won? They shouldn't feel like they won. They had to give up something significant, and they had to give up a 4th, and we swapped them for a 5th. So the 49ers shouldn't feel like they won, but I don't think they should feel like they lost either, because they're getting one hell of a wide receiver, and they're 6-0, and they need this guy. Garoppolo needs this guy. So I think it's a really good deal for both teams. So and the same thing with Chris Harris. I don't want to see Chris Harris leave the Broncos, but I don't think Chris Harris can help us get back into playoff contention in the next, 700 to 1,000 days. I don't think he can. And if he can't, well, he's at the end of his career. Guys don't play corner in the NFL until they're 40 like they play quarterback. So, let these guys go to a spot where they've got a chance to be a one player, make a difference type of guy. And let's get maximum value. I mean, what can we get for Chris Harris? I mean, to me, I for sure wouldn't take anything less than a 2. And I think Chris Harris would pay a number 1. I think somebody would give us a 1 for Chris Harris. And if we could get a 1 for Harris, I think we're made a good deal. Just like I think Emmanuel Sanders being an unrestricted free agent at the end of this year, for us to get a 3rd and the cherry on the 4th and 5th swap, let's give some credit to Elway, you Elway haters. Right? Because people don't want to remember that, okay, well, all the Broncos did, you got your Super Bowl because you went and signed and paid millions of dollars and signed a franchise quarterback, one of the greatest players ever. Well, yeah, we did, but let's don't get it twisted. Somebody had to sign him because we weren't the only team that wanted Peyton Manning. Lots of teams wanted him. And everybody thought he was going to Tennessee, but Elway signed him, and Elway got a Super Bowl with him. So doesn't Elway get some credit for that? For 2 Super Bowls? Look, if I was the GM of some of your shitty teams out there, and I came and said, look, hey, in the next decade, in 10 years, I'm going to take your franchise to 2 Super Bowls. I'm going to put 2 Lamar Hunt trophies in your trophy case, 1 Lombardi, put rings on a lot of fingers around here, get an undrafted rookie to go to the Pro Bowl. I mean, you would take that deal. Everybody would take that deal. So do I believe Elway needs some criticism? Absolutely he needs it. Is he on the hot seat? Yes, he is on the hot seat. Does Elway have to perform? Yes, he has to perform. But the way it works in the NFL, sometimes, you do all the study, you do all the research, you look into these guys, and the player just doesn't pan out. He gets hurt, something happens. But if something doesn't happen, and a couple of them do pan out, and the next thing you know, you're in the playoffs 2 or 3 years in a row because all of your pieces, all your moves worked, because you just have just as good of a chance as it working, sometimes it's not working. Now all of a sudden, you're the hottest and greatest GM in the NFL? Look, I'll agree, Elway's made some bad moves, but I think he's made some good moves as well. Bronco Fanatic 97, trade below average Joe Flacco next. Well, I don't think he really has a whole lot of trade value. I think we keep him on the roster at the end of the year. I think we also start Locke. If I was John Elway, I'd bring Locke back as the second guy, which means you got a shelf butt, which is probably not a bad idea, and get rid of Theo Riddick and let him go to somewhere else. I mean, he can help a team coming out of the backfield. He probably has a little bit of value. We might be able to pick up something with Riddick. I don't think we can get a lot, but I think we can get a 5th or a 6th because I think there's teams that need it going into the postseason. I mean, look at the Chiefs. Chiefs have a sorry running game. They could really use a guy like Theo Riddick. So I don't think we trade Joe Flacco, but I do think Locke's got to come into the game sooner or later, probably after the bye week. Hey, bro, what are you thinking about trade Vaughn to Baltimore? Nah, I mean, I don't think Vaughn's going anywhere in the AFC, and if he is going anywhere in the AFC, I mean, I think we got to have 2 firsts and the cherry, right? So we got to have 2 firsts, and like Mr. Irrelevant has to be the trade to get Von Miller out of Denver. I don't think Vaughn's going anywhere. I wouldn't trade Vaughn. He's the face of the franchise. He's got to stay here. He's the leader of our defense. We need him in the locker room just as much as we need him on the field. Patty Perez, what's happening? Saying Harris is a first-round talent, or at least first-round trade value. I agree, Patty. I really do. I think Harris can really help a team out. He can really take away one side of the field. I mean, you look at what he was able to do to AB, some big receivers that came out. I mean, we've seen him get beat too. He got beat, last week or whatever. And look, they're human beings. They're all going to get beat sooner or later. I'm just saying that more times than not, you throw the ball at Chris Harris and it's dangerous because the kid knows how to play corner and he will beat you with his experience. So I think, if we were going to trade him, I'd have to get first-round draft pick for him. And like I said, I couldn't take less than a second. So would I take a second and a third or 2 number 2s for Harris? I think so. D-Money says Flacco's trash. Well, I think he's trash too. I mean, I never liked him really to begin with when we got him. But, it's like the old adage. I mean, people out there, cut Bowles, cut him. Go get somebody else. That was a guy saying after the Bronco game when I was leaving. I'm like, who? You think world-class, all-pro NFL tackles are sitting on their couch at home eating Cheetos? No, they're not. I mean, look at how bad. If we cut Bowles tomorrow, there'd be 10 teams trying to sign him. Now, they wouldn't be wanting to give him a whole bunch of money, but they would want to sign him. They would want him, if anything, for depth on their roster. Look how much we hated Michael Schofield. Dude starting down in, down out in LA for the Chargers. I'm not saying he's performing well, but I ain't hearing his name on the penalty flag roster like I'm hearing Garrett Bowles. And nobody hated Michael Schofield worse than me. Little Randman 34 or Lit R Randman 34. Is Vaughn off the table? No, I just said Vaughn's not off the table. Everything has a price. But you want Vaughn, it's 2 firsts, and if he's going anywhere in the AFC, it's 2 firsts and Mr. Irrelevant, or 2 firsts in your 7th, or 2 firsts, and I get to take out your wife, your girlfriend, and your sister on a date. Like, that's how valuable Von Miller is to the Denver Broncos. So anyway, let's go down here. Carlos Aricio. Wow, multiple picks in return. Great trade. Well, I mean, we had to give away a player and a pick. So I don't think, I don't think we made a great trade. I think we made a fair trade. I really do. I think the Broncos got a fair trade, and I think the 49ers got a fair trade. I think both teams got equal value. Both teams got what they needed out of this deal. I mean, if I was Elway, I'd have traded Emmanuel Sanders too, and believe me, nobody loves ES10. Manny Sand more than the OG Broncos. I love him. I really do. I love him. Trade Flacco for a bag of sunflower seeds. I don't care. Just get him out of here. Well, look, I agree. I mean, there's nothing about me that wants to see Joe Flacco play this week. I mean, look, for what? He's not going to reel off 7 wins for us, right? So let's see what our young guy can do. I mean, it was a necessary evil going into the season. I don't think that it was necessarily a bad move. I wouldn't have personally signed Flacco. I would have just kept Keenum, hoped that Chad Kelly, which was what our plan was, Chad Kelly and Drew Lock could have fought it out and eventually beat Keenan out. But I would rather not go get a veteran, a player that's already in the NFL. I'd rather that, look, we've got a couple of good running backs that are young. We've got now with Tim Patrick and probably, Hamilton in the slot and putting Cortland on the other side. That's a good young group of wide receivers. We got a rookie on our offensive line. We need to go fill in some of these pieces, and I'd rather, let's just get some young guys in camp and let's see who emerges. We signed Brett Rippey and put him on our practice team, so he's still in the fold in Denver, and I still think that kid's maybe got a little potential down the road. So let's just see how things go. I mean, it's too early to say what should we do. I don't know when we're drafting. A lot of people say let's, get picks and let's take those picks and trade them away for 2 years down the road for Trevor Lawrence. I mean, you can't bank on a guy like that. We don't know if he's going to get hurt. We don't know if he's going to be in the number 1 spot with somebody else holding the ticket and they won't sell it to us no matter what we're offering. I mean, there's teams that are going to need that quarterback. The Bengals are certainly looking for a quarterback. They got to move on from Dalton at some point. Dolphins are looking for somebody. So, I mean, look, there's going to be some fights for some quarterbacks, but I don't think that is our biggest issue right now. Bro, what are you talking about? Says, I knew there was a reason that I subscribed to this show. Thanks, man. I appreciate all the people that subscribe to me, all you guys that show on the live stream. Super cool that you guys show up here to just see what I have to say about the whole things. Diamond Rattler says, what up, Bronc Nuts? I like to trade too. Good. I think, like I said, I like to trade. I think it's fair trade. I don't think the Broncos got the best end of this deal. If anything, I think the Broncos got the cherry on top of the sundae, right? I mean, that's it. All we did was swap a 4th and a 5th. And, look, it makes you don't take a rocket scientist to figure out a 4th round pick's better than a 5th round pick. Doesn't mean you're going to get a better player. Just means that you get a guy with a little bit better talent from what you can see on what he's done so far, his body of work. Doesn't mean he's not going to get hurt, not going to choke in the NFL like Noah Kant. But, look, I mean, some guys ball out, right? I mean, Noah Kant, he's a 1st round draft pick. That's why people are so we're down on him because we seen the Raiders sign Waller out of a drug rehab program, literally laying in the gutter, and the dude's balling out. I mean, balling out on Sundays. And we see our stump dropping 3-4 passes a Sunday. We're fed up with it. Broncos Fanatic 97. I only called him Flunko since the fluke Super Bowl run. Never wanted him on the Broncos. I didn't either, and that really was a fluke. That mistimed jump by Raheem Moore. Still gets to most Bronco fans. Let's Let's see what else we got. KC Sports Report. Am I actually optimistic about Locke? Yeah, I mean, I think I am. I mean, look, I'm the first one to say it. I mean, it's on wax, it's on record that I like Daniel Jones #1 and I like Locke #2 that year. I didn't like any of those other quarterbacks. I really didn't. Those were the two that I liked for Denver. Now, I like Jones the most, and I mean, who knows how all this is going to pan out, but I think Locke has big-time talent. But I also said in the very beginning that if you look at Locke's top 10 plays in college, you can't figure out how he's not the #1 overall draft pick. And if you look at his 10 worst plays and decisions that he made, you're trying to figure out how the guy's even draftable. So am I optimistic? Yes. He's got a big arm. I've seen him do some things in preseason, put some balls in some tight windows. I mean, some dimes. And I was like, wow, that's nice. I mean, hopefully, like, that's not a fluke. Hopefully he can do that year in, year out, because that's what it takes. I mean, you've seen what some of these big time players, these quarterbacks in the NFL do, the Mahomes, the Bradys, the Breezes, you know, the Aaron Rodgers. These guys throw balls in the most perfect spots, and that's why they have a lot of success. And they do it with some sketchy wide receivers because they're that good to overcome those things. So I am actually optimistic about Locke. But look, I mean, I'm going to leave it what it is. He's a young player. We haven't seen enough. And until I see more, I really can't say that, you know, Locke is the future of this team. I really can't. I can say that he looks good. He looks good from what I've seen so far. I wish he wasn't hurt and we can see more. And hopefully after the bye week, we get him in the game and we get him more. Dingy Pingy says y'all should get Cam Newton. Hell no, I don't want Scam Newton. I don't want a guy in the Super Bowl who fumbles with all the chips on the line, ain't diving into that pile. Enough said. I don't want that guy on my team. Plus that little fairy wearing, ice skate dress wearing guy come out with the hoodie and the scarf and all kind. I don't want the sideshow that Cam Newton brings. I don't want that. Leave him in Carolina. Cam Newton's not a Denver Bronco, and I hope he never is a Denver Bronco. So teams are showing interest in Wolf. What are my thoughts on that? Well, I don't think Wolf's trade value is really high right now, Patty. I mean, I think at the absolute best, we could get a 5th round for Wolf, and I'm not sure anybody's even going to give us that. I think somebody would give us a 5th, but I mean, at a 5th, I'd rather have Wolf. I mean, I really would. Now, if I could get a 3rd for a Derek Wolf, gone. If I could get a 4th, I'd have to think about it. Maybe if I could get a 4th in the cherry, like we got on the Sanders deal, I'd have to think about it. But a 5th, I'd rather have Wolf on the roster. If anything, just for depth. I mean, you need defensive linemen on your team, and you need them a couple deep because guys get hurt in there. So Wolf, to me, is a Denver Bronco. He's a hard-working guy. He's a hard-nosed dude, a good, you know, attitude to have in the locker room. And I'd rather see him play here in Denver, and unless I can get really screaming value for him. I think he's got several good years left. I know he's been injury prone. He's been hurt a couple of times, but you know, I won't say Wolf is playing really bad this year, but I won't say he's playing really good, and that's why I don't think his trade value is that high, and I don't think teams are going to give us much more than a 5th. So to me, no, I don't think that there's much about that. Nuts, how about Teddy Bridgewater? Now, that'd be an interesting idea because I like Bridgewater. I really do. But I think with, you know, the injuries that Breezes have had, and as good as the Saints, you know, are doing this year, I mean, I don't think Saints are willing to trade him, and I think the trade value is too high. But I did like Bridgewater, and I'd loved it if we'd have tried to make a move for him instead of Flacco. I mean, he's the one guy out there that, you know, he's young, he has a lot of upside. I think he's a heck of a scrambler, and I think Bridgewater's got better days in front of him. So, you know, I wouldn't be opposed to Teddy Bridgewater, but I would still rather have a young guy that we can develop right from the very beginning. Matt Rodriguez asked me, do you think Peyton Manning has a role with the Broncos? Well, it sure seems like he's sniffing around a little bit, right? I mean, he's a lot of games. I mean, and I know Peyton's got a house out here, and he likes Denver. I mean, how can you not? I mean, listen, out of all the states in the United States, let's be honest and just get it out in the open. There's a handful to 10 states that are way cooler to live in and go visit and do things in than the rest of the states, and Colorado is one of those states. So how could he not like him? We have low crime, awesome weather, sun shines 300 days a year. You get all 4 seasons. We've got great sports teams that have big time fan following. You know, look, there's a lot of things to like about Colorado. So would I be happy if somehow Peyton Manning got a role with the Broncos? Yeah, I mean, if they said tomorrow, well, look, we're not going to get rid of Elway, but we're going to make, you know, Manning the director of player personnel. or whatever, and put him in a position that, you know, if Elway, his next couple of years don't, you know, we don't pan out in draft picks. I think he had a good draft last year. I think he had a good draft the year before. Some of it we haven't seen with Locke yet, but I think we've put a couple of young guys together in our mix, and I think Elway's got to get credit for those things. I mean, yes, has he missed on some quarterbacks? Yes, but like you've heard me say before, I don't think you can put all of that on Elway. We've never gotten serious and gone into the top 10 and gotten a stud quarterback. We're trading up, throwing Hail Marys at the bottom of the first round. We're drafting Simeon in the 7th. Chad Kelly was Mr. Irrelevant. What do you guys expect is going to happen with these types of quarterbacks? There's a reason why nobody wanted him for 7 friggin' rounds, right? And to get Locke with our second number 2 pick, I thought was pretty good value. I really did. So I don't know, man. I don't think that Manning is really going to come here unless Elway gets fired, and I don't see Elway getting fired anytime soon. Ninja Eel, what's up, Broughton? That's nothing, man. Thanks for coming to the stream. I appreciate you being here. West Coastin says, Cap to Denver? No. I mean, Kaepernick, I want no part of him. Look, I don't have any problem. I mean, look, I personally don't kneel for the national anthem. I take my hat off, put my hand over my heart, stand at attention, proud for the country. I'm not going to do what Kaepernick did. I think he's a sideshow. I think he's a circus show. I think he's a look at me, guys, not a team player. I don't believe in Colin Kaepernick, so no, I don't want him. Now, do I think Colin Kaepernick in his day was a good player? I mean, heck yes, he took the 49ers to the NFC Championship game. I mean, let's don't forget that. I mean, he had the 49ers, you know, 1 game away from hoisting the Lombardi trophy. So, but he's been out of football too long. I don't want any piece of Kaepernick. The Gambler says, thanks, pal. Hey, you got yourself a good player, man. Gambler, hey, let me tell you something. Manny Sanders can ball, dude. He really can. And when your team is in that desperate, dire strait, you need somebody to make a big play. He's the guy, man. I'm telling you, this kid makes plays, and I call him kid. He's not a kid. This is a grown-ass man. Emmanuel Sanders is a play-making fool. And if you get him on a day when he's hot, and he can do a lot of things. He can run the end around. He can drop a halfback or a wide receiver pass. I mean, he can catch punts. There's a lot of things that Emmanuel Sanders can do to help your football team. And right now, at this very moment, Emmanuel Sanders is the best wide receiver the 49ers got. And they needed a guy like that. So I think that it was a good move. And like, if you missed the earlier part of the stream, Gambler, I don't think the Broncos won the Emmanuel Sanders trade with the 49ers, and I don't think the 49ers won either. I think that he was worth a number 3, and I think that us swapping the 4 and 5 on the backside, I think that maybe the Broncos get the cherry on top just so Elway felt like he won. And, you know, look, hey, you got to give up a little bit of something, especially if your team's undefeated. Shout out to the 49ers fans. Man, you go from rags to riches, undefeated. Things are looking good for them. And I'm happy to see Emmanuel go there because I really think he can help you. And I want to see Emmanuel have some success. He's a great team guy. He's a guy that's always positive, a guy that is always bringing the play of the other players up around him. And I thought he was the best playmaker we've had here in Denver for the last 5 years. So Chief Urag selling the farm, yo. Well, I wouldn't really say selling the farm. I say if we end up getting rid of somehow Von Miller, which I don't think we'll do, and Chris Harris and Derek Wolfe, then I think that selling the farm comment would be valid, but I don't think it is just for this particular trade. The Gambler, why you always hit me up with this question like I'm some sort of guru? How low do you think Bitcoin will go, OG? I think we're at the bottom, bro. I think we're in a consolidation period. I think if you can buy it anywhere in the 7s, I think it's a good deal. 6s, it's a no-brainer. 5,000, I'm even moving more of my money in. And I think it's just headed for great things. So what do you care what you get it at? Just cost average on the way down. Matt Rodriguez, who do you think is the best team in the AFC? Do you think the Patriots are a fluke? They haven't played anyone hard. Do you think KC will be able to keep momentum without Mahomes? Well, I think the best team in the AFC right now is the Patriots. I know they haven't played anybody, but I mean, let's be honest. This is the NFL, and they're stomping people out like cigarette butts. So still got Brady. I mean, anytime you got Brady, I mean, Brady is filthy. I mean, he's filthy. You've seen these passes he made, like he's filthy. And so he gets it done with average wide receivers. And so to me, they're the best team in the AFC until somebody says otherwise. As far as Kansas City's a good football team. Look, I don't think I'm not telling y'all anything you don't know. Without Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City's a bag of shit. And that's the truth. Now, can they still win games with their backup quarterback? Yes. Did they beat the crap out of us? Yes. But let's be honest. You're not going to go win a Super Bowl with Matt Moore. You're just not. Mahomes is that special of a player. So do I think they lose momentum? Yeah, maybe, but they can get it back. I mean, I think he's that good of a player. The other thing you got to look at with Mahomes is just like I've been saying all along. I mean, people have been wanting to put him in the Hall of Fame and make his bust, and already, look, let's see how Mahomes does after he has a high ankle sprain and a torn patella tendon or whatever happened to him. And then somebody hits his elbow just right, and that swells up on him 1 year, and he gets a concussion or two. Injuries like that mount on players in the NFL, and the great ones can overcome all of those things, still be great, still take your team and win the Super Bowl. John Elway got his biceps severed and then on his throwing arm and then won 2 Super Bowls. So don't try to tell me about how great Patrick Mahomes is right now. I think he's a hell of a talent. I think if they can't win the Super Bowl with him, they ain't winning it with nobody. Because he's as good as anybody I've ever seen. When healthy, Mahomes is as good as anybody in the business doing it. Bro, what are you thinking about? Hope KC loses a few games. Well, look, they're probably going to lose a few games. They probably lost a few games even if they had Mahomes. Right? I mean, they did. They lost to Houston, lost to Indianapolis. And that just goes to show you that, look, those are some good teams out there. And then Houston gets waxed by Indianapolis. You never know what can happen in this league. A lot of injuries, a lot of things got to come together. They got to line up to hoist up a Lombardi. It's hard to win these damn trophies. It's hard because it's not just one player. It's a lot of things that you got to come together on with your franchise as far as coaching, GM, ownership. I mean, just ticket sales. Everything just got to line up just right for you to end up in the Super Bowl. And the fact that the Broncos have been there, we've been there a lot of times. We've had our fair chances to win some of these Lombardis, and we've won some. This is a proud franchise. No matter what anybody wants to say, this is a good franchise. This is a good franchise to be a fan of because the ownership and the fans really care about what's happening in Denver. And right now, my money's still on Elway. I mean, look, people say, well, go get us a legit GM. Okay, well, who? Some of them are coaching at places. Right? I mean, if they were going to get anybody as a GM, you know who I wanted? Mike Mayock. Because I think Mike Mayock's going to do a hell of a job in Oakland. I really do. I think the guy's a film junkie. He studies college talent. And I think he's going to do a good job of getting the Raiders back on track, which is not good for us. So if we were going to do it, I think that was the time to do it. But as of right now, I mean, I'm going to still take number 7 on my side. And I'm not going to look, he's on a short rope. I mean, I'm not one of these guys that, I'm blind. Elway can do no wrong. I worship Elway because I don't. I like the Denver Broncos 100 times more than I like John Elway. And believe me, I like John Elway a lot. But I want to see the Broncos win. And I think Elway's made some good moves here. He has made some moves that didn't pan out, right? And I think all GMs can do that. Like I try to pay smart GM. I didn't want DeMarcus Walker. And look how good he's played in the last 3 weeks. I wanted us to not take that pick. And I wanted us to come up in the draft and reach for Adam Shaheen, the tight end in Chicago. Now, Shaheen's had a couple of touchdown catches. He's done some nice things, but he hasn't turned into a boss stud like I thought he was. I thought he was the next Rob Gronkowski. So that shows you how much I know about being GM in an NFL football team. Sometimes things just line up for players. Sometimes you find a little jewel. Sometimes you find, a guy like Philip Lindsay or a guy like, Tom Brady or Terrell Davis or Rod Smith. Like sometimes you just find a guy and he ends up being one heck of a player for your franchise. And I think the GM's got to get credit for that as much as you got to get chastised for the first round picks that you're missing on. And Elway has certainly missed on some first round picks. He has picked up a couple. I mean, Chubb was a good pick. Right? And I would have rather have seen him stay at 10, take Bush, not trade down. But, that's easy to say because we haven't seen Drew Lock yet. Let Drew Lock win you a Super Bowl. And now Elway's a friggin' genius because he traded from 10 down, got him Noah Kant, but that also allowed him to pick up another second round pick, which picks up Lock. So it's too early for these people to want to put nails in the coffin to John Elway. And that's just the facts. And if you don't believe that, you don't know football. And that's the truth. Get back to the comments. Gambler. We'll talk about that some other time. CA Sports, what's happened? Welcome to the stream. Who will the Broncos get at wide receiver? I don't know. I mean, Tim Patrick's looked nice, and he's been on IR, so I think he's going to be one of the ones that comes off IR. Young, good player. So, I mean, look, we're going to definitely be in the wide receiver market next year, but that doesn't mean we're going to take one at number one. I think we got bigger problems than the wide receiver room. Patty Perez says Patriots are the best team in the AFC, whether we like it or not. I mean, look, I hate it. I hate the fact the Patriots are good, but they are. And that's just what it is, and they're legit. So until somebody goes and starts smacking the Patriots around, I mean, their defense looks as good right now as I've ever seen it. I think they showed a stat last night. You got to go back 100 years to have a team match the point differential that the Patriots have right now this year. 100 years. I mean, how many football teams, how many good defenses have been around 100 years? You're talking about Bears defense, the Broncos. We've had some good defenses been around. Ain't none of them have done what the Patriots have done right now. I realize they haven't played some people, and they've played some teams that are struggling, but it's not like they're just playing with those teams or just barely beating those teams. They are pounding those teams. So right now, best team in AFC. Little R Randman 34. I'd like to see us tank and go after Tua Tagovailoa or whatever you call him. Well, I'll tell you what. I disagree with you on that. I mean, I never want to tank. I'm kind of, look, let's compete. This is the NFL. Let's go out and try to win every game with the guys we got. I'm not going out there trying to throw any games. That don't work in pro football. But I will say that I'm not a fan of Tua, and I'm just going to get it out there right now. I don't think Tua can throw the 15-yard out in the NFL, the deep out route. I don't think he can throw it and drive it. I think Dabo Swinney's seen it at Clemson. That's the two passes that they picked him off in that national championship game, and I think Tua got a little exposed right there. Plus, when you take Tua, now a left-handed quarterback, now you've got to think about who's your right tackle. That's the only thing that made me believe that maybe it is Tua, right? Because we did sign Juwan James, who's, hopefully coming back this week, and paid him all that money, because now that's his blind side. So, I don't know, but to me, I'm not a big fan of Tua. I like Jalen better. I like Burrows better. I like Herbert better. I like all those guys better than Tua, but I know there's going to be a lot of people that like Tua, but I'm not a rush to get Tua right now. Diamond Rattler, KC needs to bench Mahomes for the year. Teams are going to be gunning for that leg. Well, yeah, unfortunately, that's just not the way it works in pro sports, and I don't think they'll bench him, but I do think that they should sit him until after the bye week. To rush Mahomes back right now, I think is a fool's play. The Chiefs got a lot of pieces of the puzzle put together, and their window to try to do something is now, because Mahomes is going to get 5 years, $200 million next year, and when they get that, and they've just paid Clark, and they just paid they paid Tyreek Hill. They gave Kelsey a contract 2 or 3 years ago. I mean, things are going to get tight on the Chiefs' purse strings once Patrick Mahomes is not on that rookie deal anymore. So I don't think they should bring him back. I think they should just help him along and hope their backup can get him to be 3-2 in the next 5 weeks, and then hopefully you can get back on track. I mean, that'd be my strategy if I was running the Chiefs, which thank God I'm not, because if I was, I'd run your shit-ass franchise right into the ground for 20 years. Bill Romanowski says, Atwater was my favorite player. Good player, man. Not only a good player, good guy, right? I mean, look, these quarterbacks in today's leagues, they don't know what it's like to get blown up by Atwater, Ronnie Lott, or, these dudes that were big hitters. I mean, everyone wants to talk about Brady, is a great quarterback. He is. I mean, he's deciphers defense, has great throws, does it with nobody. But you think Brady could have lasted in the days? Joe Montana got his face ripped off. Elway got his face ripped off. Marino got his face ripped off. I mean, you can hit these guys low. Joe Theismann. You can hit these guys in the knees. You can hit them in the face. You can hit them in the neck. You could body slam them to the ground. You could hold their wide receivers. It was a brutal game, and the game's gotten a lot more soft, so it's hard to compare those types of quarterbacks anyway. Elway has one more shot, Randman. I agree. I agree. KC Sports says, do you think Fan is struggling because Flacco sucks, or because that's what I believe? Maybe. I think Flacco short threw a couple of those passes, but look, those passes hit both hands. In the NFL, especially as a first-round draft pick, look, let's be honest, a first-round draft pick is a valuable piece to any NFL franchise. You got to be right. And no, I don't think he's struggling because of Flacco. I think Noah Kant is struggling because he's a choker. I really do, because I see all the athletic ability. He looks like one hell of a tight end. He is a physical specimen. He's big, he's fast, he creates separation, he's strong. But the fact of the matter is, he hadn't blocked since he's been here. He's made one play, and he's done more to kill drives than any Bronco I can think about in the last 20 years. What do the Broncos do about number 72, Bowles? Matt Rodriguez wants to know. Well, right now, there's nothing we can do about it, right? I mean, we can go draft another tackle, but you want to take another left tackle in the first round? Because I don't. What I want to do is bring some more competition into camp. And I really want to push Bowles out, make Bowles a backup, maybe move Bowles inside to guard somehow. I don't know. I'm not to the point where I think Bowles can't play in the NFL, because I think he can, but I don't think we should cut him, because then what? I mean, you just got to go sign somebody else. And who we're signing, are they as good as Bowles? I don't know. I don't know who's out there. Jamie Lure, thanks for showing up to the stream. We need a new left tackle in next year's draft. Get rid of Garrett Bowles. He's garbage. No more chances for him. Well, I think you probably heard what I just said. It's easy to say we need a new left tackle. I mean, it all depends on, Broncos are going to be picking pretty high, probably in the top 5, 10 picks. So you want to use a top 5, 10 pick on a left tackle? I mean, maybe. But he better be a super stud, like a can't miss, like an unbelievable prospect. And you can't say that about a lot of guys, right? So, I mean, I don't know. Do I think we start signing some tackles, some free agents? Yes, I think there's going to be some things happen. I think the fans and the ownership in Denver's seen enough of number 72, but I don't think we're going to get rid of him. I think he's still going to be on the roster. I think when his contract comes up, we're going to offer him a contract, but it's not going to be a big one. Nobody else can offer him a big one either. They've seen him lead the league in penalties. Brian Warner, we need to find some irreplaceables. Too many penalties. He does have a lot of penalties. JD with Hawk Hater TV. Thanks for Sanders. You're welcome, man. Enjoy him. You got yourself not only just a good football player, a good human being, right? A good guy in the community, a good teammate, good guy to have in the locker room. Just a stand-up dude. I can't say enough good things about Emmanuel Sanders. He did a lot of great things here. Was easily one of my favorite Broncos in the last 5 years that we've ever had here. And I'm sorry to see him go, because I like this guy on our team, but I realize that it's a necessary evil, and I commend Elway for making the trade, and I'm happy with what we got. Again, I don't think that we won, but I don't think we lost either. I think it was a fair trade. Number one Broncos fan says Dalton Reisner will be the best guard in the league behind Nelson. I think you might be right about that. I mean, Dalton looks like a nice leader. He's not getting a lot of penalties. You don't see his guy, beating him too often. And you see, Reisner doing some heady things like grabbing Lindsey and throwing him into the end zone. I mean, those are veteran moves that a rookie's making right away. So I don't know how good Reisner ends up being, but if you watch my pre-draft video, I said Reisner's one guy that we just got to figure out somehow to get on this roster. I don't know if we can unless we trade down. Then we traded down and picked Fant. Noah can't. And I was like, well, Reisner's out the door. But to see Reisner still there in the second, and to use that pick and then use the added one we got second, we get to pick up Locke. I mean, look, I think that was a good move by Elway. It's still a lot of left to be seen. But, that move down will make people forget about Devin Bush really quickly if Locke turns out to be the real deal. And I don't know if he is, but I don't know if he's not. Whatever, we'll see. Jamie Lawrence says, I really hope Drew Lock starts after the Colts game. Time to let this stud shine. Well, I agree. I don't know if he's a stud. I don't know how good Locke is. But I've seen Locke do some really nice things. I've seen Locke make some big-time throws that we haven't seen here in a long time. And I've seen him make a couple bad decisions too. And it's just what you get out of a young, developed guy. But, hey, I want to see Locke get in the game, because I want to see what we've got, because we have big decisions to make at the end of this year, next year, trades, picks, stock and draft picks to maybe try to set ourselves up to get Lawrence. There's a lot of different moves that can be made, but we got to see what we got in Locke before we start cashing any chips at the window here. Bill Romanowski says we need Chris Jones and Landon Collins. Maybe that's who you were talking about. I like Landon Collins. I mean, I don't really think he's a great player, but I do like him. Chris Jones, yeah. Didn't he just sign big money, or did he get a 1-year deal? I don't know what the heck's going on with him. Brian Warner, do you think that they should pay Locke for the rest of the season? Well, yeah. I mean, that's the way it works, bro. I mean, do you think if you went to your job and a piece of equipment fell on you, or you got hurt somehow, should they just not pay you? Of course he should get paid. He's on a rookie contract. That's the way it works. When you're under contract, you get paid. And the only time you don't get paid is when they give you a pink slip and say bye. Ninja Eel says we're all going to miss ES10. Now it's time for Cortland Sutton. I agree. Sutton looks nice. I mean, if you're just a football fan, there's nothing about Cortland Sutton that you couldn't like. I mean, Cortland Sutton's a nice player. He really is. And I think he's one of the next big names to do it in the NFL. Certainly doing a good job here in Denver, making some big-time catches. I mean, he gives us a charge, right? I mean, he has a little excitement to what he does. The only thing I don't care for about Sutton it's not that I don't care for it. Maybe we'll see it in the future, but we just really haven't seen it yet, except for like really one time. He doesn't have that like DeAndre Hopkins, Odell Beckham, Julio Jones. He doesn't have that factor that when he catches the ball in the open field, can just juke 6 different guys, make a whole bunch of people miss, and take it to the crib. He doesn't do that enough for me, but I don't really care. I mean, we do need a guy that's a playmaker like that, and Emmanuel was kind of that guy. He's really fast and shifty, but we also need somebody to come up with the big catches down the field, get behind the defense, and Sutton's certainly doing that here in Denver. Bronco Fanatic 97, enough with the Noah Kant stuff. Well, I mean, he is Noah Kant because he can't do nothing right now. I mean, you were the one telling me, oh, he played at Iowa. He can block. Okay, well, show me Noah Kant, because as far as I can see, you can't do nothing. You can't catch. You can't block. You can't find the ball bounces off. Flacco gets an interception. You can't stop yourself from getting a holding penalty. There's a lot of things that you can't do. And until you show me otherwise, your name is Noah Kant. All right, MC Sniper 123. What's up? Not surprised Sanders got traded. Sutton is definitely the best receiver on the team. Now everybody knows how I felt about Demaryius Thomas getting traded last year. Look, I wanted Demaryius gone. I mean, and it turns out it was a good deal, right? I mean, what did we get Demaryius? A 4th, which I didn't even think we'd get that for him. And so to get that, what has Demaryius done? He's bounced around to a couple of teams. We've seen him drop another one that hit his hands last night. Demaryius is not the playmaker that he used to be. He's late in his career. He's good for a 3rd down wide receiver, maybe a fill-in if a guy gets hurt. But Demaryius, to me, is not a starter in the NFL. I'd rather roll with Tim Patrick, and that's a fact, Jack. I really would. I'd rather have Tim Patrick. I'd rather have Benny Fowler on my team than Demaryius Thomas right now. Do I watch the Denver Nuggets? Hell no. I'm not. First of all, I don't even care about basketball. I mean, if the Nuggets go in the playoffs, whatever, I might pay attention. But I mean, especially with everything that's going on with China, and now they're shushing you, and now they said they're going to kick fans out of games if you say anything to the players that isn't basketball related. And basically what they meant from this, they didn't want you going and say, hey, you know, LeBron, why are you supporting China? You say something like that, they're kicking you out of the game. I mean, that's a bunch of BS. Who wants to go to a basketball game? I'll never give my money to the NBA. I won't watch it. I ain't buying no jerseys. I'm not going to spend no money on no tickets. NBA could go out of business, and I wouldn't even realize it. I wouldn't even care. You like that Noah Kant West Coasting? I mean, look, he is. He's Noah Kant. I mean, the guy, Noah, I know you're watching this stream. I know you're one of the 29. You are a choker. A choker, bro. I don't know how else to say it, because you look the part. Your physical attributes are way over measured. You're fast, you're big, you're strong. You look like everything. I mean, when I saw that we drafted you and I went to the very first practice day that we had in Mile High State where they let the fans in for free, and people asked me, what'd you think? I said, one thing really stuck out to me in that practice. And they said, what? I said, how great of an athlete Noah Kant is. And they're like, really? I'm like, yes, this is a big kid. I said, he's going to do some big things in Denver. I said, this is a big guy, and he's getting separation. I mean, he looks nice. Noah Kant's been nothing but an absolute firecracker dud. You know when ones when you light it and you take off running a country mile, and then it don't go off? And you're like, oh, there's a little bit of that wick left. Just let me light it again. And then it still doesn't go off. That's Noah Kant. Anyway. Jamie Lewis says, why don't we use Jeff Hireman more after his drops? I agree, dude. I mean, if I was a coach, I'd have taken Noah out and let's put him on the bench and just say, hey, man, you ain't ready. You ain't ready to go in these pro games yet. Because all it is concentration, right? I mean, I played football. I played college baseball. You got to grind, man. When you're tired and you're sweaty and it's late in the game, your team needs you. And when the ball is hit to you or thrown to you, you must make plays for your teammates. You must make plays, especially if you're one of the most prospective players on the team. You can't just go shaking your head, looking at your hands, going back to the huddle. Okay, guy's going to drop a ball every now and then. I've seen a lot of great ones drop balls. This guy dropped 4 in one game. All of them hit his hands. He's had penalties, killing drives in every single game. At some point, I say, hey, Noah Kant, maybe you need to sit on the bench for a minute and watch some of these other guys take your snaps. Because right now, he's showing me he ain't ready for the NFL game. He just ain't ready for the NFL game. I don't like this. I don't like the fact that that's the way it is, but it is. Let's see. What else we got here? KC fan says this may be a blessing for Denver rebuild through the draft. Start thinking about the future. Well, I mean, it's the truth. I mean, you're right about that. Let me see if I can fix it. Getting a little dark. Can y'all still see? The sun was jacking with me earlier. I think so too, KC fan. I mean, we do got to start thinking about the future. The Denver Broncos' time is not now. It's not. And there's been a time when it wasn't the Chiefs' time. And you had to go through the draft and do the things you had to do, put some pieces together, get a couple of free agents once you got it all together, and then you just got to cross your fingers and hope you can close the deal. And that's not where the Denver Broncos are right now. So I would like to get rid of some of these players. I would like to have a fire sale. And it's not because I don't like these players, just because I think we need to get younger. We've got a new coach, new coordinator. We need to get some young blood in here. We need to find a young quarterback. And we just need to try to build it from there. And that's just the way I think is the best way for the Broncos to do it. I don't think we're a couple players or just a couple of years away from being right back in the mix. Ninja Eel says, do I keep up with a lot of college football? Colorado's doing horrible. You ain't lying, because Colorado looks like a pile of dog doo-doo. And I like the Buffs. I mean, if I had to say that anybody, I don't really have a favorite college football team, but if I did have one, they'd definitely be the CU Buffs. But I also root for CU, Air Force. I work for, Northern Colorado, Southern Colorado. I root for all the Colorado teams. But I also, there's a part of me that likes the Florida Gators. I love to watch teams in the SEC. I like Oklahoma. I just like watching good college football games. I like watching exciting college football players. So am I disappointed that the Buffs aren't doing well? Yeah, I am, because I want to see these home state teams do well, but it ain't in the cards. But I think the Buffs got the right coach. I think that you give him 3 to 5 years. I think he's going to have him right in contention. We just signed Jerry Rice's son in Colorado. He was a 4-star recruit, had a lot of options at Florida State, Michigan, UCLA, USC, Oregon, Washington. I mean, kid pretty much could have went anywhere he wanted. He chose Boulder. So hopefully he's half as good as his daddy, because if he is, then I think we got us a good little player. King Stacy says, you hope we trade Von Miller. Well, like I said, it's not like I'm saying, no, Miller's off the table. Miller's on the table. Everybody's on the table. Everybody's for sale in the NFL. I mean, it is. And the Broncos are sellers and not buyers right now. That's the way it goes with this type of record. You know what? It's getting pretty dark. Let me turn on a light right quick. Hold up. There we go. It got a little dark in there. I was like, man, I can't even see me. So I'm not a fan of trading Miller right now, but I probably would be more of a fan of trading him next year than I would be this year. But like I said, if we ended up getting 2 number 1s and a cherry, it would be tough to resist, especially at his age. I mean, I don't think Miller can do anything in the rest of his career, or at least in the next 3 years, to get us back into playoff contention. I don't think by himself he can do a lot of things. I mean, people want to talk about Miller's sack production. Out here, a lot of people listen to Big Al on 104 The Fan. I mean, he says it best, I think, that, you don't have to get sacks to be a good pass rusher. You've got to sniff out some screens. You got to crash down from the edge those running backs trying to hit those holes between the tackles. You know, you can hurry, you can knock down, you can tip passes. I mean, you can there's a lot of things that you can do where you don't have to necessarily get sacks. And so a lot of teams are taking short 3-step drops because they knew Miller and Chubb were our weapons. And if you're a coach on the opposing team, what are you trying to do? You're trying to neutralize the other team's best players, and those are our best players. So a lot of 3-step drops. The only guy who took 5- and 7-step drops against us this year was Packers quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. Mahomes wasn't even taking 5-step, 7-step drops. He couldn't because he had a bad wheel. So, I mean, I just think that's a good way to beat the Broncos. Short stuff, throw it to the tight end. I mean, Broncos had some trouble with some tight ends this year. Bill Romanowski, you're a Jayhawks fan? I like Jayhawks too. I'm a big Jayhawks basketball fan. Now, I do like college basketball. I love college basketball. And the Jayhawks are my favorite team by far and away. You know, like I'm from Kansas originally. I'm from a small town, Midwest Kansas. And when you're out there, I mean, Jayhawks are what it is, and there ain't no two ways about it. So you just kind of grow up liking the Jayhawks, and I always have. But, you know, that's another team. They've had some success and have really broke your hearts. A lot of early exits in the Sweet 16 or in the first round in the tournament. But, you know, they've had some glory. They've had some stuff. Matt Rodriguez says, I think if we traded Vaughn, we could cash in, but it's not going to happen. Yeah, I think we could too. If I was on another team and I wanted to trade for Vaughn, what would I be willing to pay? Well, it really depended on what my record was and how bad I needed a pass rusher, but I think I'd be willing to pay at the very bare bones minimum a first and a second. And I think that's the absolute bottom of the barrel of what you could accept for Von Miller as a first and a second. And so if we got offered that, maybe a first, second, and Mr. Irrelevant, and like I said, if he's anywhere in the AFC, he's got to go for 2 firsts and a cherry. But I don't see it happening. I really don't. Von Miller's going to be a Bronco, so quit dreaming. I'll be very surprised if he's gone. MC Sniper says the difference between Miller and Mack is Mack's a lot younger than Vaughn, and Khalil Mack's an all-pro too from positions. I mean, this is true. I mean, Mack's a beast. He shows it week in, week out, and he is a beast. I think Mack has evolved into, of the two, a better player. Both of them got different games. I mean, Mack's kind of more like Chubb, but Mack's a special talent. And, you know, who knows what we got in Chubb. Chubb's playing really well before he got hurt this year. So we're looking for big things for him to do for the rest of the year. Jamie Lee Lure says, I like Chris Harris Jr. too, but I think we all know he'll probably go to the Eagles from all the reports. Eagles would be a good place because the Eagles got trash-ass corners. I mean, terrible. And they need him. And the good thing about the Eagles, at least their situation, is, I mean, who's going to win the NFC East? Because all of those teams just look like, you know, some days they look good and some days they look sorry. I mean, I don't know who's the best team there. And the Eagles got as good a chance as anybody, but they got to get some help in the back seven because they are definitely getting schooled back there. And the Eagles might be a team that could give us a first-round pick for Harris. And if they were willing to give us a first to take Harris, I would make the trade. I mean, I just straight up would. Bill Romanowski, you went to Pitt State, huh? That's nice. My dad went to Emporia State, played football at Emporia State. I played a couple of years of baseball at Dodge City and then went to Florida after that. But I'm originally from Pratt, so I'm sure if you're from Pitt State, you're familiar with Pratt. I mean, I've been down that whole El Dorado and that whole corridor down there playing games and stuff, people in our conference. So Pitt State Gorillas, that's a proud little, I mean, who came from there that was really good? Wasn't it like John Brown or somebody was from Pitt State? Type it in if you know who it is. Matt Rodriguez, I don't like how Chris Harris has been handling himself. Broncos players are normally classy, and Chris went rogue with that best cornerback stuff. Yeah, but I mean, I don't listen to all of that. I mean, listen, when you're playing cornerback in the NFL, you need a guy that's half cocky and half Superman, and that's exactly what he is. You need a guy that's very confident in his ability and feels that I don't care who you put on me. They're not gonna ball out on me. The guy might get a couple of catches. Antonio Brown might get a couple of catches. He's a hell of an athlete. I'm just one man here. But day in, day out, Chris Harris is as good as anybody doing it in the business, and I don't have any problem with the confidence that he has. Brian Warner Miller isn't going anywhere, Bronco for life. I'd be fine with that. I mean, he's a franchise-type player. We paid him the big money. He's the leader of our defense, leader of our organization, the face of the organization, a leader in the locker room. You got to have guys like that on the team. Let's see. King Stacy, Chris Harris is worth a first, a second round pick. I agree. I mean, if we could get a second and a third, I think I'd take that. But if we could get a first, I mean, I think Chris Harris is valuable. I mean, I really do. And I think it'd be a good time to move him because, I mean, look, I mean, the guy's getting old. Let him get another shot at go getting a Super Bowl. He ain't going to help us in the next 2 or 3 years. I mean, he's going to make some nice plays, but at the end of the day, it's about wins and losses. And we ain't got enough wins right now, and it's time to send Chris Harris on down the road. Let's see. Patty Perez, absolutely play Hireman instead of no. He's obviously not ready. Hireman isn't as fast, but he can block a hell of a lot better, and he catches the ball. I mean, Hireman is a good blocker. And I thought the Broncos were going to run a whole lot more two tight end sets than we have, and I think maybe that was the plan with having Butt. And but he's back on the IR, so I don't know, but I agree. I'd love to see Noah Fant just get put on the shelf right now, and because look. Let's just change his jersey. I say that we make the back of the jersey say can't until he can. That should be the penalty for Noah Fant right now. Listen, we still want you on our team. You're still a first round draft pick. We still gave you all that money. But until you can, here's your new jersey. It says can't. I'm gonna go out and show me you can. Jamie says if we get a first round for Chris Harris Jr. when his contract runs out next year, then John Elway's a genius. King Stacy says it's not about being a genius. It's not. I don't think John Elway's a genius. I think he's just a GM making moves. I mean, look, everybody wants to pin everything on John Elway, and rightfully so. I mean, when you're in that GM's job, the final decision is always on you. But that decision of who to draft is being researched by a whole team of people, whole staff of people that are, and look, man, there's not a bunch of stupid people in the NFL, all the way down from equipment room managers. There's smart people all over the NFL. You can't be a dumb person and be associated with an NFL franchise. I mean, they just don't have dumb people hanging around. So, and sometimes you're wrong. In every lottery, there has to be losers and there has to be winners. And guess what we were in the first round for the last few years? Losers, right? We were. There's no other way to admit it. We're losers in the first couple of rounds. Now, we picked up Sutton in the second round. Were we a winner in the second round? Yes, we were, which means some GM was probably a loser in the second round. We've made some good steps. I don't think that Elway should go unscathed. He deserves the criticism. The seat is getting hotter every single day. And believe me, like I said before earlier in the stream, I like the Broncos a lot more than I like John Elway. So, whatever. Let's see. John Brown did play at Pitt State. Yeah, I thought he did. I thought he did. We shouldn't forget about Bryce Callahan. I think he's going to ball out. I like Bryce Callahan. I think he is. I think also, like Bill Romanowski says, Devontae Bosby, both been good players. I mean, Bosby was in the FAA, whatever that league was. And I think, I'm not even sure what team he is, but I think he was on the Arizona Hotshots, to tell you the truth. And I thought maybe he wasn't on that team. Anyway, he's a good little player, and he's turned out well here. I'll tell you another guy that's been a good pickup is the punt returner that we got, from the USFL. I mean, that guy's been catching the ball. He's made a couple of nice returns, hadn't turned anything over. He's been sure-handed back there. And that's a lot more than what we've had with Isaiah McKenzie and a bunch of the other yahoos that have been returning kicks in Denver for the last 5 years. So it's kind of nice to see that, that's improved a little bit for us. Number one Broncos fan, I'd love to see Peyton as the offensive coordinator. Well, I mean, he's never had that job before. I'm not saying that he can't. But there's a difference between being a player and a coach. But I think if there's anybody out there who fits the bill of being, a bookworm, just a guy that's going to study a student of the game, a good teacher, knows what quarterbacks should be looking for, knows how to read and dissect defenses, how to check into the right play. I mean, if you want to talk about anybody, it's him. So do I think he should get a shot at that? Yeah, but I don't think Peyton wants that job. I think Peyton wants a GM job. And I don't think he's going to be a quarterback coach either. I mean, come on, it's Peyton Manning, man. This guy's worth billions. He's doing the nationwide. I'm on your side. I mean, he's getting paid. He's not going to come here and coach quarterbacks. Get out of here. I don't think he's going to be a coach at all. I agree with you, Corey H. Anyway, I think I'm going to wrap it up. That was a little bit over an hour. Look, I appreciate you guys joining the stream, just hearing what I got to say about the Emmanuel Sanders trade. The state of the Broncos, there's a lot of things that need to go better for us, and I think that this was a fair trade for both teams. And I wish Manuel Sanders well wishes, lots of luck. 49ers fans, enjoy him. You're going to really like him. He's going to make some big plays for you, and I hope he does a lot to help you in your playoff quest in the 2019 season. This is the OG Bronc Nuts from the 719, and you know where on the West, suckers. I'll see you tomorrow. I'm out.